Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you may be watching this transmission. I promised my fans and people down in New Zealand that I'll do a real estate wrap-up for the country of New Zealand. And New Zealand has been a very, very interesting trend in the housing market. It's been playing off so interesting, and I've been following it very close, bringing up articles on Wednesday with trends in the housing market and kind of following its pulse and where it's headed. I do see the government doing the right thing with protecting the Kiwi proper, but the main question is it too late? Is it too little too late? With the amount of people sleeping rough, the amount of people sleeping in vehicles, the amount, like 20, 30 people to a house, people renting out backyards to pitch a tent so people could pay to pitch a tent in a backyard. People renting out driveway space for people to park their RVs on. It's phenomenal. And the Kiwi proper's been, or the New Zealand proper, if you want to say it, has been in a noose for the last couple of years now. And a lot of people fled to Australia, which the housing crisis is even a lot worse in cities like Sydney and Melbourne. And now, apparently, the capital, Canberra, I hope I said that right. I'm sorry if I didn't. Now is triumphing over the rest of the other big cities in Australia now with housing increases. Now, prices are going down. It's nobody's no big secret. But it's still so far out of reach for New Zealanders, it's phenomenal. The amount of just the wage gap between affordability and you know, New Zealand has its American dream too. It's New Zealand dream, the Kiwi dream, to own their own home and their own place they could call home and lay roots for the family. And you know, people have been holding back from starting families, getting married, doing big projects in life because of the fact they just can't get a grip on the cost of real estate and clinching anything that makes any sense worth buying. I was gonna pay $2 million, $1 million for a starter bungalow. It looks like a trailer. Like, who the, like, remember those articles I brought up? Oh, great starter home in New Zealand for a good family and this and that. This one bedroom and one den. It looked like a trailer home going for like $1 million. It's like, really? And interest rates go up. Game over. People don't understand, to borrow $1 million in a normal housing market with interest rates at 5%, that's a lot of money. That's like $60,000, $70,000 a year in finance charges. That is not even paying down the mortgage. So what's happening, people? So let's take a look at some articles here. Meth testing homes, all this crap that's happening there. People being put up in hotels. This shouldn't be. And I don't believe in affordable housing. I believe in well-paying jobs, because then well-paying jobs, you're not in that glut of what choices do we have because we don't make much. No, it's let's make some real money out there. Let's get a real job we could grow into and promote ourselves, get promoted and stuff. That's what I believe in, good paying jobs, you know. But the government there, Phil Tyford and Jacinta, the new president there, she's trying her best to really target this housing crisis, because every political platform now, from here to Timbuktu, is just going to be housing affordability. It's not going to be healthcare. It's not going to be schooling. It's not going to be anything but housing affordability. Because if you can't lay roots, you can't spread your wings, or you can't grow your branches, or whatever you want to call it. So I brought this article up a few weeks ago, and I'm going to bring it up again because it's from January 23rd, but it's very important. Auckland housing sales slumped 20% as the foreign buyer ban hits the market. So the foreign buyer ban's been in for 4 or 5 months now, and man, is it ever working. 20%, everyone was saying, stop blaming the foreign investors. It only takes 7-8% of the market to get bought up at ridiculous prices that create this thing. So let's tie it in with the article I read every time. Vacant homes are a global epidemic, and Paris is fighting it with the 60% tax. Now, you see, New Zealand is fighting it with actually targeting what they think is the problem, and it looks like it's working. Now, let's look at this one. Look what Paris did. Runaway real estate speculation has been filing global capitals with vacant home, creating artificial shortages in the world's most sought-after cities. The shortage has made local homeowners wealthy overnight, but it comes at a cost of turning lively cities into empty shells. Auckland, Welland, Christchurch, there's all those cities in New Zealand right now are turning into empty shells. Look at Sydney and Perth. Well, Perth is okay. I'm saying look at Sydney and Melbourne. Everyone's moving to Hobart, you know. The city of Paris has decided it's had enough and implemented a tax of 2015. They didn't quite get the result they wanted, so they're now tripling the tax to 60%. Paris empty home problem. Paris has been trying to deal with a vacant property owner for some time. Despite warnings that the city will have to take action, the number of vacant homes is growing. There's now 107,000 vacant homes, representing 7.5% of all residential dwellings in the city, according to France's INSEE deputy Ian Brosset. It told Le Monde that 40,000 of these vacant homes aren't even connected to electrical grid. So here it is. So here's Sydney. Let's see if they have Auckland. Now, they don't have Auckland. And they don't have Welland. And they don't have Christchurch here. But look at these cities. Los Angeles, 213,000. New York City, what's this? 308,000 empty homes. Oh, so they raised the taxes. So New Zealand's doing the right thing by targeting foreign... See, okay, I'm a Portuguese, right? I shouldn't be able to go to New Zealand and just buy a house because I feel like I want to buy a house. I shouldn't be able to do that. Period. I mean, I can understand Australians going in and buying a vacation home in New Zealand, maybe like a cottage or something. It's like a Canadian buying in the U.S. like a snowbird home because it gets cold. They fly south for 6 months and then come back up. I could see that. Like Australians moving down to New Zealand for 3-4 months of the year, or New Zealand's moving up to the Gold Coast there, or along for 6 months of the year to escape the colder months in New Zealand. You know what I'm saying, right, guys? So I'm thinking like there's, you know, like that kind of thing, right? But for me, a Portuguese, to walk in there and say, yeah, man, I'm going to buy a house here. Well, no, it should be just like Mexico. When I wanted to buy a house in Mexico, read the fine print. If you're going to comment below and tell me, oh, a lot of expats own in Mexico, read all the fine print. I have 2 lawyers in Mexico. I have 1 lawyer in Cuernavaca, and I have 1 lawyer in Carmen de Playa. I know. I lived in Mexico for 2 years. I could tell you the laws there. You can't own if you're a foreigner. And if you do own, read all your fine print. Real fine tooth. Ask a lot of questions. But anyways, I shouldn't be able to go to New Zealand. I shouldn't be walking to Welland and say, or Auckland and say, I'm going to buy a house here, and I like this area, and I'm buying 2 of them. I shouldn't be able to do that. I should be laughed out of the office like I was in Mexico when I told them I want to buy a house. They looked at me, you're a foreigner. You can't buy here. Are you crazy? And that's what I got. And that should be with countries, should respect each other's country's boundaries, right? All right, let's move it on. So that foreign buyer's tax is working. Now, this is kind of a thumbs down here. New Zealand housing crisis, just 47 affordable homes built in 6 months. Come on, guys, you got to quicken pace. You got to double your efforts here. Jacinda Ardern's flagship KiwiBuild policy labeled a failure amid delays and claims homes are too expensive. Yeah. Like these homes, like, okay, let's say you're in South Georgia or something, or if you're in South Carolina, or you're in parts of Texas. These homes are no more than $190,000-$200,000. But the economies thrive because then people spend money at the hardware stores to fix their homes. People spend money like updating their appliances. There's a thriving bustle and movement. You know what I'm saying? You know, everybody wants a nice little castle that they could call their own and say that they've you know, everybody, you know what I mean, guys. And that will drive up the, because then there will be more sales, more locals flipping between each other, people starting with the 2-bedroom and moving up to a 3-4 bedroom and growing their family. That's how we used to be 10 years ago. Now it's go sleep in your car. That's where you belong, right? Jacinda Ardern's flagship housing policy is in dire straits after the government admitted it won't meet its target building of 1,000 affordable homes in its first year, and it is set to fall short by 700. I'm pretty sure if they could bring housing pricing down and create better jobs, not government jobs. I think New Zealand could get more tourism in, more tourism from Europe and other countries, and start promoting more tourism and bring the external money into the country. I think New Zealand has I think they do. I think they could be very more direct flights from other cities. I think New Zealand could make a difference. I honestly think if they get more in there, they could get more outsiders spending money, more locals building attractions for the outsiders to come in, and small business and small cabanas and small stuff on the. It all adds up. It all adds up. And you know what? And then once the middle class starts thriving, then you don't have to build more affordable homes, because the average house should be 180 to 340, 400,000 at 4.55% interest rates. Once interest rates have to go back to reality and people have to wake up and clean the mess, guys, hear me out. It's going to be a short-lived ride. They're going to have to fix things, because we've artificially lowered rates that we haven't done in human history, and I've been bringing the same story, broken record up all the time. And now it's starting to hit. But putting on more housing on the market is going to help. It definitely will. Because then now it's going to give more choice. And now with foreign investors not investing anymore, New Zealand prices are among the most unaffordable in the world, with Auckland the 7th most expensive city to buy a home, and all 3 major cities considered severely unaffordable by the latest Demographia International Housing Affordability Survey. We covered that a few weeks ago. In the 2018 Labour coalition government banned the sale of existing New Zealand homes to overseas buyers and launched its flagship KiwiBuild scheme to build 100,000 affordable homes in the next 10 years, with 1,000 of the total scheduled for the first year. But since just 47 KiwiBuilt homes have been completed, the Housing Minister, Phil Twyford, has said the government is unlikely to reach its target of 1,000 by June 2019, putting the success of the project in jeopardy. Well, just keep at it. Don't give up. Just because you fall short doesn't mean you've lost. You might stumble, but you're not going to lose. It's bringing down the damn pricing of homes. But on a good side, or on a good note, if you want to see, a lot of the New Zealand proper don't even own their homes anyway. They're all sleeping in cars and condos and stuff. And the ones that do own their homes, most of them bought at the right time anyway. So if they take a 40% haircut, it's not that bad. Or a 50% haircut, it's really not that bad. If they didn't use up the equity, though. If they used up the equity, then we're looking at problems here, because then they got to pay that back. So on TradeMe, New Zealand's largest online auction website. So guys, check out TradeMe if you're living in New Zealand. Some private home sales were being advertised cheaper than KiwiBuild and much more affordable than KiwiBuild. So guys, keep an eye out on those other sites that are there to help you guys. South Auckland housing development protesters remain resolute. A community occupying land near Auckland Airport to stop housing development being built alongside a sacred land. They say they are feeling increasingly scared as the threat of eviction draws nearer. Yeah, I think they're gonna have to withdraw on this. You got to make the people happy. Don't build on ancestors' graves. Yeah, guys, if you're watching this down in New Zealand, just let it go. You don't need to develop on there. Stop thinking business and start thinking humanity, and start thinking about the people once in a while, Yeah, no, don't build on these people's land. Don't do that. Believe me. Housing in all main New Zealand markets are now severely unaffordable. We know this already. None of the New Zealand main housing markets are considered affordable any longer, according to a study released today. So the market will crash. You'll see a massive correction, or things will start to get itself in place. Palmerston North, Matua, was the least expensive at 5.0, then Christchurch at 5.4, Dunedin at 6.1, Wellington at 6.3, Napier, Hastings at 6.7, Hamilton, Waikato at 6.8, and Auckland at 9.0, following Turanaga by Western Bay, of plenty of the most unaffordable at 9.1. So here it is, national housing affordability of all markets. So there's New Zealand, Ireland's in there. We talk about Ireland a lot. United States we talk about a lot. The UK we talk about a lot. Canada and Australia. We don't talk too much about Hong Kong. We do have someone on our show that is from Hong Kong that we speak to very regularly that could tell us anytime what's happening there in the markets. So anything more than 3 times the household salary is deemed unaffordable, and homes. I remember in Philadelphia, was it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I read an article that in Philadelphia that it's gone 3 times higher than the average income, and then they put the brakes, full stop on everything. What's going on? People can't afford. We got to do something. This is not good. This is 3 times the. Now it's like 17, 18 times, like crazy amounts the average income. Crazy. I'm not talking about, and the people that make more pay more tax, right? So New Zealand is losing at housing. So how could we win? That's a very good question. Densifying things won't make things any better. But densifying things will actually take away from the New Zealand way of life, if that's a good way to say it. Today brings confirmation of the depth of the crisis of the global context. We need bold action. Not tinkering at the edges and overhauling the tax system has to be a part of the change. Opinion. All of our housing markets were deemed severely unaffordable, with the median house costing more than 6 times the median household income. We managed to snatch a wooden spoon from Australia and the United Kingdom, both which incidentally have capital gains tax excluding the family home. Imagine if we got similar result in Rugby World Cup later this year. There would be an outrage and calls for massive overhaul of the way we structure rugby in this country. Instead, when it comes to housing, we are fiddling at the edges and pitching at ideas from the countries that marginally better than us. It would be a bit like crashing out the Rugby World Cup and then hiring the Portuguese coach to take over the All Blacks. Hey, what's wrong with Portuguese? I'm a Portuguese. I'm pretty sure I could manage a rugby team if I had to. Unlike rugby, there should be no surprise at the housing result, as the country we have been training for this for many years. In the late 1980s, our tax system has favored housing more than any other developed country in the world. Why? Because economies' GDP are all pegged to housing. It shouldn't be. It should be fabrication, exports, production. Kiwis have responded with gusto, putting more on our money into housing than any other country in the world. Sadly, this money hasn't been to improve the quality of our housing. A large proportion of it is cold and damp. Instead, money has gone into building up the price of land. There it is, guys. Another graph that we went over again. Here's the table. So unaffordability, wow. Holy smokes. Look at Hong Kong. Vancouver's right there. Sydney, New South Wales, Melbourne, Santa Cruz, California, San Jose, California, Los Angeles, Tortuga, West Bay of Plenty, Auckland, and San Francisco, California. So, andale. Let's move on, guys. New Zealand plans new tax for giants like Google, Facebook. Yes, tooth and nail. It's like this. New Zealand plans new tax giants like Google and Facebook. Full stop. That's it. No questions. No debates. No application for any grants. Done. These guys need to start paying through the nose because they're collecting off advertising. People pay for advertising for their small businesses. People pay for advertising through Facebook, and they make billions doing it. And you know what? It's time that if their people are using their services in whatever country, it's time they start paying taxes. Oh, yeah. And they should do Amazon, too. They should do Amazon, too. So people buy local, so you can start seeing local stores opening again. This is the spin-off they have with New Zealand still utterly broked. It's not broken, broked. Some are taking matters to their own hands. As the government and business lag behind, the fledgling community-driven house sector is pursuing alternative to bypass an unjust system. Is there any hope for the future of housing in New Zealand? Our tax law encourages wealthy landowners to enrich themselves through untaxed revenue, also known as capital gains. The government faces scrutiny over KiwiBuild policy, which, even if successful, would mainly just increase the supply and largely unaffordable homes. While the rental prices skyrocket, our Australian-owned banks stoke this extractive system by creating more and more money through the mortgage debt as they effortlessly accumulate $1 billion profits. It's grim, and it doesn't look like changing much, but because those that benefited from this step up have a firm grip on power and are not about to relinquish it. Some may even have convinced themselves that this is actually the optimal system. So it's not working out in the eyes of a lot of people, and a lot of people are getting frustrated. There's a lot of people 10, 15 years on the sidelines there because the unaffordability is just really, it's not a normal housing market there, right? No more TV and iPad giveaways for New Zealand homebuyers. No! No more TV and iPad giveaways? What the heck? Well, I can't buy anything there anyway because I'm an outsider. I'm a foreigner. 5 years ago, New Zealand banks were so keen to lend, they were giving away iPads and flat-screen TVs to attract new mortgage customers. Today, the gifts are gone. Would-be home buyers are interested in being scrutinized more than even before to ensure they can service the loan. Well, you got to make sure, right? Especially with interest rates looming. Mortgage brokers say the change in attitude is tightening the screws on the property market and raising fears that New Zealand could join Australia in seeing house prices start to slide. Yeah. Tighter credit equals softer house prices, and that's certainly what we're seeing, said John Bolton, chief executive of Squirrel Mortgages in Auckland. People can't borrow as much as they could a couple of years ago. Yeah, hello. So, in the forecast for there, prices are going to go down. Beijing puts chill on ties with New Zealand. Beijing could go to hell. Who cares? And you guys know that Hawaii, whatever they're called, cell phone company, they are basically banned from New Zealand and that 5G network or whatever that's going on. After New Zealand has worked to mend its stained relations with China, it seems New Zealand is now receiving the cold shoulder in its ties with Beijing, following its decision to ban Chinese telecommunications, Hawaii, whatever, I don't care, supplying equipment for its 5G network. Good. It's the same thing. Think of it this way. Bad ties with China. Who cares? You know, I'll be straight up with you guys. Straight up. Think of it as a New Zealander or a New Zealand company trying to go to China and running their infrastructure and their internet system in China. What do you think China's going to say to New Zealand? They're going to tell them to go to hell. So it's time that some countries step up, and I'm really proud of New Zealand for doing this. I'm really proud. You know, go try doing something in another country and then see what result you get out of it. You know, what does New Zealand get out of it? Nothing. They get spied on. Ms. Ardern acknowledged last week that there were challenges in New Zealand's relationship with China. So China has problems with Canada. China has problems with India and that China-Indo border there. That dispute that China moved 20 kilometers into the Indian border, across the border, and says that's part of China now. China's having in the South Spratly Islands. They're having problems everywhere. So don't worry, New Zealand. Honestly. There is no doubt with our relationship in China is complex, she said. There's no doubt the relationship comes with its challenges. Our relationships with a range of countries will from time to time. But here's the deal, guys. The more distant you are from China when it comes to them doing this kind of stuff and trying to implement law or their way in their country, you know what? With the market the way it's looking right now in China, backing away and kind of deleveraging with the Chinese, the more, the better. I mean, I would be saying this if it was the Portuguese. I would be saying if this was the Russians. I'd be saying this if it was the Mexicans. But it's the Chinese. And, oh, you keep picking on the Chinese? No, I'm not. It's the Chinese, and that's plain and simple. You're going to hear a lot of China talk coming from every source, every media source around the world, because they're the ones that have, Chinese are a huge presence in Africa. You know, now I just read an article in Portuguese the other day on my Portuguese channel that now Angola is trying to mend ties again with Portugal because they're in a lot of trouble with other partners right now in Angola and Mozambique. They're like, okay, Portugal, we need you back. We need something. We need a system, a changing. We need to fabricate again. We need to export again like we used to, because right now this fiat system and this promises is not working out for us, right? So anyways, guys, that's a wrap-up for New Zealand. I really hope, I pray for them. I really do. I pray. I actually do. I have a rosary. I pray. And I really hope that that countries start standing their own ground and start taking care of their people to continue the progress. That countries need to get more patriotic, more patriotic in a positive way. That they're independent, because the second you need other economies and stuff filtering in their ways and stuff, or implementing economic takeovers like the housing crisis we're seeing, it starts drowning out the culture and what it means to being a New Zealander. Anyways, guys, this is my New Zealand real estate wrap-up. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you want to add me on Skype, it's Mike Martins, MikeMartins 1980 @gmail.com. I'll be your first Portuguese friend. How's about that? Add me on Skype. Send me a first message saying, hey, Mike, I'm in Christchurch, or hey, Mike, I'm in Welland. I'd like to be on trends in the housing market. I'd like to tell you what's going on here with housing. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. God bless. Big hug to everybody, and have a good night.